Hi, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe if you haven't done it yet. Thanks.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. So in the last video we created this Vue.js form, but it's not reactive yet. In this episode we will populate the select category and subcategory fields, and we make this Vue.js component reactive as if you press F12, and if you're using this Vue dev tool, if you go to the last tab, as you can see we have this register component. So as you can see, it gets highlighted by blue, and if you click on it, as you can see, this instance has no reactive state. So we will just handle everything. Okay, so let's just start it. So as you can see, we have this form here, and it's just a simple HTML and Bootstrap classes with it. So nothing special yet. So we need to create a form here, new form. And this is referring to this form.js class. So that's what we're creating now, this new form. Okay, and in this new form we will have input fields like, for example, email address, and set it equal to nothing. And we will have a domain title equal to nothing again, and we have a domain URL as well. And we have short description, short disc, and we have the normal description. We will have category ID as well and subcategory ID. Okay, so in order to populate the category and subcategory, we need to pull in our category and subcategory from our database. So as we learned, we will pass it as a props. So let's just do that. We need to pass to this view the category and subcategories as well. So let's just go to the controller, and in the domain controller we need to pull in subcategory and category app. Just grab these and paste it in here. And let's just get them from the database. So first let's grab the categories, and let's grab the subcategories. Subcategory and category, yeah. And let's just pass it into this view. And let's also pass in the subcategories as well. Okay, everything looks okay. Let's save it. We need to grab these values and pass it into the Vue.js component. So let's just go to this create view. Here we have our domain register view component, and let's just pass these variables into the component. Okay, so we are passing into our component these variables. Let's just create the props field into the component. After export default, we need to grab these props. So one of them is the category, and the second one is the subcategories. Now if we check our Vue component, we should see these two props. Let's just hit refresh and see everything is okay. Looks, we got an error, so something has gone wrong. Okay, so the problem is we imported this form from form, but the form I think hasn't been exported yet. So what we need to do down inside this form.js, we need to export the default form. And let's save it. Hit refresh. And we don't have any errors now. Great, let's check this view tab. And as you can see, we have the categories and subcategories as well loaded into our view. So now we can loop through and create select options from categories, and independent of the value of the category, we can give back the related subcategories as well. Okay, so in order to do that, let's go back to the editor. We need to create the option. Okay, and we want as many options as many main categories we have, so we need to loop through the categories collection, and in Vue.js we do it with v-for, so v-for in this dot categories. Okay, so this categories is this. And we loop through with v-for and create category from each of the categories. And the value will be using view binding category.id. Okay, so we want a category ID as a value, and we want to echo out the name of the category. So category dot. Okay, so it's not Blade syntax, it's Vue.js syntax, so that's why we use dot. So we want to display the category name as an option, and the value will be the category ID. So let's save it and see if everything works. Okay, so as you can see, we have all the categories displayed as an option, and now we have this form object as well. And now we want to populate the category ID with the selected category ID. As you can see, if we select something, for example gaming, nothing happens here. So we need to connect these together. Okay, it will be very quick. So we're going to the select field and we say vModel equal to the form dot category ID. So we want to connect this selection to the form.category.id, which is this one. So we want the value populated by this selection. So let's save it and see if it works. Hit refresh. Okay, so now we have the category ID number 3. Let's go to the gaming, number 4. Let's select the first one, internet, that was the first created. Number 5. So these IDs coming from the database. So marketing has ID 5 in the database. If we see and check it, categories, yeah, marketing has number ID 5 into the database. Okay, so but if we refresh, as you can see, we haven't got any pre-selected select option, and we want to display something by default. So in order to do that, we need to go down here and just give it ID 1. So anytime we load the page, category ID number 1, which is internet, has been selected. So as you can see, if we refresh it now, number 1 is selected, and we have this inside this form. But if we change it, it's get selected the related ID. Okay, now loop through our subcategories and show the related subcategories related to the main category. To do that, we need to do a computed property in Vue.js. So let's just create this computed property down here to make sure we loop through the subcategories. Okay, so what do we want here? We would like to filter the subcategories. Depends on the selected category ID. So let's call this filtered subcategory. So this will be our filtered subcategories, and let's just return. Okay, so we are filtering subcategories. These subcategories is related to this one. Okay, so it's equal to this one, and we filter it by category ID. So this is the item passed into this function. So we will call this as item, and we pass it into this function, and we want the item category ID has to be equal to form category ID. Okay, so inside the database, the category ID. So inside the database, all subcategories has category ID. So that's how we know, for example, browsers and internet service providers related to the internet category. That's how we know PC gaming, PS, Xbox gaming is related to number 4 category, which is a gaming category. Number 4 is a gaming category. So that's how we know they are related. And we check this category ID. And we check this category ID and match it to the selected main category ID here. So if we select the gaming, then it will be number 4, because that's the category ID of the gaming. So it gets passed down here. So it will become number 4. So it became number 4, and we filter our subcategories where the category ID of the subcategories is equal to number 4, and we return an object. So now we get this object and we loop through just like we did in up here. So we create an options. Okay, so v4, and we want subcategory in, but we just need to use only the filtered subcategories, and the value again will be this ID, and we want to display the name of the subcategories. Okay, and also we want to pass it back to the selected option, pass it back to the form. So we need to create a V model here, and we want to match it to the form dot subcategory ID. So we're gonna assign it to this variable. Let's save it, hit refresh, and we have an error. Let's see what's the problem is. Item is not defined. It's because I made a typo. So let's save it, hit refresh. Okay, so as we expected, the default value is the internet, and now we can select the browsers or IPS. If we're going to the gaming, then we should see PC gaming, PS4, Xbox gaming. If we go to marketing, it has no subcategories related to this. Tech channel, gaming channel. So let's just go back to gaming and select PC gaming, and if we check our view in the DevTools and we see our form, as you can see, we selected category ID 4, which is gaming, and we selected subcategory ID 8, which is PC gaming. So now we can pass this data into the database and save it. So now we can create the connection, the relationship between the domain name and the category and subcategory. Okay, so let's just make reactive all these fields as well. So we can grab them here and pass it to the database. It's gonna be easy. We will have to use vModel on them. Into the input tag we will use vModel, and this is connected to form.email. Let's save it, hit refresh. Let's go to the form. Okay, so as you can see, it's empty, but as soon as we start typing something, it's now grabbed by Vue.js, and we can pass it to the database with Axios later on. Do the same for the URL, the title and short description and long description as well. Okay, vModel, so it will be related to form.url, domain, input, form.title, vModel, short desk here, yes. Okay, and we have the description as well. So we go into this V editor and we use the vModel on it as well. Let's save it, and everything should work. I made some mistake here, yeah. It should be before this slash. Okay, let's check our data. URL, as you can see, it's working. Domain title, yeah, short description, and we have this as you can see, the strong tags and p tags, and I assume the heading tags as well is getting saved into our database, so we can echo it back as it is, as you can see here. Okay, so let's just make the endpoint for the store method in our controller, so we can send our data to the controller. So let's just make it now. But before we do it, let's just create the connection between the domain, the category and subcategory in our model file. So let's go to the app, and inside the app folder we can see the domain.php, and let's just type in our relationships. Okay, so just like we did in subcategories and categories, we need to create public functions, and one of them will be the category. And let's create one relationship for the subcategory as well. Okay, so basically what we tell into Laravel that domain is belongs to a category and the domain is belongs to a subcategory as well. So we need to do the inverse. Okay, so basically we made the inverse. Category has many domains, so it could have more than one domain related to the category, but the domain could only have one category. Same with subcategory. Okay, let's save it and let's jump to the controller, and let's create the controller for store our data into the database. So domain controller, and we are going to the store method. Okay, so we want to validate our data. So first of all, let's create our validation. We want email required. And it has to be an email. We want title required. So we say max 60. And we want the URL as well. We want short description as well. And it could be up to 150 characters. Let's just test this validation. Okay, so we need to go back to our domain register form, and we need to prepare to send these data to the backend. Let's go up to our form. We don't need this action up here. We need a method, which will be post. Okay, and we will upload later on image as well, so encryption time has to be multipart / form data. And also when we submit the form with the submit button, we want to prevent the default action, and we want to call our own action here. So we need to do @submit. So when we submit the form, we want to prevent the default action, and we want to call our own action here. So let's just call it submit data, submit domain, for example. Okay, so if we hit the submit button, we want to prevent the default submission, and we want to call this action submit domain, and we're creating this method down here. So we want to name our method exactly the same as we named it up here. So to make sure I don't have any typo, I just copy and paste it down here. Okay, so by default we could send our data collected in this form by straight away by default with Axios, but as we want to upload an image as well, we want to send file, we need to do append data equal to new form data. And let's just start to append to our data the values. So data append. We want to pass the title to our database, and this will coming from our form title. So this dot form dot title. Okay, let's just do it for the email address as well. This dot form dot email, and it has to be inside quotes. Okay, we need the URL as well. We want to send short description as well. We want to send description as well. We want to send category and subcategory ID as well. Okay, and here's the tricky part. We want to send our image as well to the form. So that's why we created all this append thing. But the image is not required by default, so we need to create an if statement here. Document get by ID. Basically what we are doing here, we are selecting the image input field and we select the first file in there. So if is there any image in that first file, then we would like to append it to our form. Okay, let's just make sure we have gave this image ID to our input field. File input, yeah, where our ID is img. So we can select by ID. And if it's there any files, then we want to append it to our data. So we need to select again by ID. And we want to send the file. Okay, so we now created our data collection, and now we want to send it to our controller. So we will use in Axios, as I said, and it will be a post to a domain URL /domain, and we want to send the data. Okay, so this one line makes our post request to our domain URL, and it's sending our data to this URL. And then if we get a response, then we want to reset the form. Oh my god. Okay, so for now, that's all we want to do. We want to reset the form if everything went correctly. But if we have any error message, like for example, field is required, we want to catch that error message and display it on our form. In order to do that, we need to create a catch block. So catch. Okay, so that's why we pulled in this form.js, because this is handling our error messages, and we have this reset, so it's resetting our fields as well. Okay, so let's save it. Hit refresh, see if we got any error, and yes, we have. Semicolon was missing, of course. Okay, if we hit submit now, then we're receiving the error messages. Of course, we are not displaying yet, but we will create this as well. Okay, so let's just display error messages at the input fields. Okay, so let's say if we have any error, we haven't typed in anything into this URL field, then we should see URL field is required. This is the error message sent by Laravel to us. And of course, we want to make our field turn into the red border. So we need to give a extra class to our input field. So we are using Vue.js to do that. We want to add this class if form.errors has URL. Okay, so if the form.errors has URL, then add this invalid class to the input field, which makes it red. And of course we want to display the invalid message as well, so we need to create an extra div for our error message. Class gonna be invalid feedback. It's Bootstrap for classes anyway. Okay, and we want to show this field only if we have errors, URL errors. So we show only if form.errors.has URL. Just like we use this up here. So we want to show this field only if errors has URL. And we want to display the error message as well, so we will use vtext. And we want to show the error message itself, so we want to get the error message. Okay, let's just check this. Hit refresh. So we're seeing the error messages here, but we are not displaying. And why is not? Okay, so the reason why we haven't seen the errors is turns out related to this form.js. At the line 46, we got this line of code when we record our errors, and we need to use dot errors here. And if we save it now and check it again. It should work now. Our validation. Yeah, so we need to restart the server and we need to recompile our files. So I had to stop it by on Windows Ctrl+C and run npm run watch again, and I stopped the server as well with Ctrl+C, and I start the PHP Artisan server again, and then I had hit refresh, then I hit refresh, and as you can see we have these error messages, but as we start typing the error message and the red outline doesn't disappear, but we want to make it disappear as the user types in the values. And inside the input tag we need to add the add key down. It's equal to form dot errors dot clear . Okay, so basically what we're doing here, if we have an error that is getting red and we're showing the error message, but as soon as we hit a key down on the keyboard, then we grab this error message and we clear it from the error array. So these disappearing and it's going back to blue because there is no URL error message into the error in the errors now. Okay, so let's just test it out. Refresh, submit the form, we got an error, and as soon as we start typing, our error message is disappearing. Okay, that's it for this video, and in the next video we will save our data into the database and stuff like that. Thanks for watching, please subscribe, and see you soon.